Good day, everyone. We are excited to have you joining us from all over the world. Today is a special day as we celebrate women in Africa. The 31st of July marks a special day, the Africa Women's Day. And thank you to Fondation L'Oréal for bringing us here today to discuss our issues as women in Africa. Today's topic is Women in Science, Overcoming Challenges and Embracing Visibility. I am Sicelo Dube, the STEM lady, and I'm your moderator today. I'm a passionate scientist and entrepreneur, having started my journey as a science entrepreneur at the age of 23. Graduated, and I knew I had to make a difference in my community as far as laboratory equipment and consumables are concerned. Started making the laboratory equipment and consumables, made sure that Zimbabwe is not left behind as far as science education is concerned. Now passionately known as the STEM lady, because all I want to see is science, technology, engineering, and maths going all the way out to all the students, leaving no one behind in Africa, for the girls, for the boys. And most importantly today, we're talking about the women in science. These are the mentors, these are the trailblazers, these are the women who are carrying the torch for the better future of Africa. The world needs science, and science needs women. So this is what we're all about today. So as we start, we are going to have a short video. Stay tuned, and we'll be back to start our discussion. Wow, there we have it. There we have it. So today, we just want to tell our stories and celebrate this day in a special way. So right now, I'm going to introduce you to the panelists that we have, trailblazing women in science. I'll start off with the seniors. In Africa, we believe in seniority, right? The elders first, and then we go to the juniors. We have with us today Professor Rose Leke from Cameroon, a renowned immunologist, former head of Department of Infectious Disease and Immunology, Faculty of Medicine and Biomedical Sciences, and former director of the Biotechnology Center, University of Yode. One. I hope I pronounced that well, Prof. Next, we have Professor Catherine Ngila, Kenya and South Africa. She's a renowned visiting professor at the University of Johannesburg, Executive Director of the African Foundation for Women and Youth Education and Science Technology Innovation, a UN member group for Technology Facilitating Mechanism on STI for SDGs, members of the UNESCO International Consultative Group of Experts for Women in Science, and the Vice President of IOCD. Then we move on to the juniors. Dr. Vini, I will not pronounce your surname, Dr. Vini, we agreed on this one, from Cameroon. She's a postdoc researcher at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases in Maryland, USA. We also have Grace with us from Rwanda, a PhD candidate in global health in the implementation science track at the University of Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a gentleman with us who's going to give us the overall remarks at the end. I would like to introduce you to Professor Nelson Toto from Botswana, the former founding permanent secretary in the Ministry of Communications, Knowledge and Technology, and former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Tertiary Education, Research, Science and Technology for the government of the Republic of Botswana. We're happy to have you here with us today. So we'll not waste time, we'll go straight into our panel discussion so that we maximize on telling the story of amazing women in Africa, amazing women trailblazing in science, and today going deeper into the issues of visibility for us as women scientists. Is this urgent? Is it only urgent in Africa? Is it urgent around the world? This is our discussion today. And thank you for being with us. So we'll start off by just unpacking the challenges that we have as women in science. We want to understand it from the older generation, but we'll start the question by asking the younger generation. Grace, what are the challenges for women in Africa? What have you experienced, and where are you now? What story do you want to tell to all these people who are listening here today? Over to you, Grace.
Thanks, Sicelo. It's remarkable to be able to sit together and celebrate African women, especially African women who are contributing in science. In terms of the journey of science for early career women scientists, main challenges that exist are mainly in terms of opportunities, whether if it's financial, but also being just to be exposed and having the ability of dream of what could be. It's hard to set a goal on something that you don't even know exists. I remember early on in my career and my training, I had set my eyes into becoming a medical doctor because that's all I knew science was. It was the white coat. But the moment I was exposed and challenged to other opportunities, I started dreaming of what could be. What if my contribution could move beyond just a single interaction with an individual to thinking about population level impact? What if with science, instead of focusing on treating one patient, which is very important, I could actually work with doctors and the whole community to address global issues and population level problems? The other second problem is in terms of, funding opportunities and financial support, because truly you can't dream with an empty belly or without having a shelter and a safe place to envision what could be. The opportunity to have the funding to be able to envision what could be and explore opportunities without worrying about where the food will come the next day or how the tuition will be paid is very important. And I've addressed that by just knocking on different doors. And as they simply tell it, you never know if you don't ask. So I embraced early on that it's okay if you think I'm noisy, it's okay if you think I'm disturbing, but I'm going to ask. And the worst that could happen is no, and that's not gonna change anything on where I was anyways.
Wow. What about issues of self-doubt? Was there self-doubt somewhere in the process?
Absolutely. I think most of us will agree that we face that at some point in our lives, and especially early in our career, it's something I struggle with day in and day out. Even when I see a paper published, I'm like, oh, is this really me? Or, am I mistaken with this? So self-doubt is something that plays in everyone's mind, and especially with women scientists early in their career, where you question yourself of even the space that you're occupying, where you're sitting. it's something you struggle in and day out. And the way I found to address it is just around myself with a community that reminds me of who I am as a person, that reminds me of why I do what I do. And also that also reminds me, it's like, hey, Grace, this did not happen by chance or by favor. This is a result of your work, and other people are acknowledging it as well.
Wow, lovely. Because I know there are young people joining us today and they're saying, how did you get there? Did you doubt yourself? What challenges? And now you're seeing that the women trailblazing in science are human like us. They also have these challenges. So maybe let's take it up to Professor Rosleke. From where you are, from what we are saying as the younger scientists, how have you managed to do the balance? How have you managed to maneuver till you are a renowned and an amazing trailblazing woman in science? What is your story?
Well, thank you very, very much, Sicelo. I'm really pleased, that we can talk the older ones and the younger ones as such, because I keep telling the younger ones they have to do better than I have done. So, and I think what as my life has gone on, like she said, there have been challenges. As a woman, where you are trying to split the time, resources, energy between work, and then if you're a scientist, you have also the laboratory, and then you come on, you have a family, and the children, are growing up, and the society is there also, very demanding society that you have, and you have to be part of it. Your professional life, your work life. It hasn't been easy. And then being in Africa also is, I think for me, I don't know for you younger ones, you have to really, work through it. I just remembered I was at a wedding on a Saturday, and what happens, a grandmother today sent a message to the girl, know that the husband's stool is higher, always higher, and your stool is lower. And it has to be that way in the home. This is today, grandmother sending that message. You are a scientist. How do you do this? So anyway, to go around this, I think we've just managed. For myself, it's been a lot of planning. A lot of planning how you move from day to day so that you can balance, your life, balance work, balance life, good management skills. You have to be able to manage all those different sections that you are in, all of them. And also, time management is so important. You don't have time to go and sit with friends and discuss, and gossip or whatever it is. You don't have that time. And you take up, there are some things that are urgent and important. You prioritize. There are some that could be urgent or important, and there are some that could go again below. So, prioritization has been very important in my life. And I think, and everywhere I am, family is so important. Everything is. It hasn't been tough. But just to tell you, you have to maybe plan very well so you can manage all these different areas as well as possible. I think that's what I can say, and I hope you people will do it better. And one thing too, that hasn't been that they have a chance to have, it's that today you have mentors. I didn't have a mentor to look up to, but now I want to be the mentor. I didn't have one, but I want to be a mentor to everyone else. I think the older ones are also taking on that. So we bring the women so they become visible. You can't be what you can't see. So you need mentorship, which is very, very important. And with that, I think, let me move on. Should I move on and let others?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very lovely points that you are bringing up, because we want everyone to understand that we are also women like all of them. And these are challenges that we all have. So as we go deeper into the conversation, we've already mentioned the issue of the woman's place, culture, and taboo. What can we do, and what have you done, Prof. Ngila, in terms of being in such a male-dominated space? And we don't want to keep on saying we are a minority in this place, because if you're a minority, you have little to share. So that rush that we constantly have to say, I want this, I want this. At the end, people will then say, oh, women in science, you don't want to share, women. But the problem is, if there is minority in a space, everyone wants to keep something to themselves. And that's the African culture. And the men keep on dominating and the women, we keep on being minority. What is your feel about the male dominance in the space of science?
No. No, thank you very much, Sicelo, and Rose, nice to see you again. Vinny, nice to see you, Grace, and of course Nelson off stage. On my side, I think I've got a very interesting story. As I was growing up in the village, I remember that, so my dad used to prioritize our brothers. So if somebody has to go and graze the cattle, it is us to go and graze the cattle, but the boys has to be left behind because they must go to school because these are the future leaders of the family. And I saw that sense of differentiation. I was not happy to see that I've been discriminated. I started seeing discrimination at a very early stage. Okay, first I lost my mom when I was very young. So, you know, you have to struggle to cope with relatives and all that. And then also that was somehow gave me a lot of energy now to fight so that I can be able to survive. Now coming back now to school, as I go to school, I'm going with boys. It was a mixed school in primary school. And one thing I noticed was the boys were not doing the chores, the family chores, the domestic chores that we do. And I used to wonder why they are not doing that. So for me, a way of trying to hit back and revenge for the things that I have to do and the boys are not doing was so that I can be able to do better in school. So I started fighting just to be better in school and excel in education, just so that I can be able to prove my father that girls can as well do as well as boys. And so therefore this discrimination that boys are special, it is not on. And so that was my starting point. And I used to compete with boys actually when I was in primary school. Okay, so as I go to secondary school now, I'm focused. I'm like, I must really excel because I have to prove a point. So throughout, I was proving a point, and I come from a big family, and I was the first girl to go to advanced, what we call the A-levels. That time, Kenya system had a A-levels. So I was the first girl, or should I say the first child in a big family to do advanced, you do O-levels and A-levels. And then from there, now one thing leads into another. I loved chemistry because of the teacher, and so chemistry I was very passionate, and I started now doing chemistry very well. Mathematics also I was doing very well, and I think these are the things that pushed me. But now your question is, how do you survive in a male-dominated world? But in my particular case, it's because I started fighting without realizing what I was fighting, but I was fighting injustice. That why is it that girls have to do their house chores and boys don't do it? And I used to fight with my brothers because of that, because I didn't want that discrimination. So later on in life, I've always tried to prove a point. If I find myself among men, I must shine out, So I'm outshine the men because it is a fight that I started since childhood. And, and when I started now picking up and I'm doing well in school, I said, wow, so I can actually lead in class. And I remember when I was first year, Bachelor of Education Science, the first continuous assessment test, the lecturer came and read out the person who led the class and said, where is Mr. Ngila? So everybody looks around to see who is Mr. Ngila. And so when I went in front to say, Mr. Ngila or Miss Ngila, I was told that, are you, oh, okay, let's say JC. I said, yes, that is Jane Catherine Ngila. So that is me. He said, you cannot be a girl because you are the first, you're top in the class. And so from that point onwards, there is that confidence that came, with that actually I have led the class as a girl among mixed class because it was first year students, so in the university. So for me, it has always been trying to prove a point. And the fact that I've already proved a point, then I might as well do well. And so these are some of the issues that, so when I talk to, because I do a lot of mentorship, like, that I'm running a foundation for women and youth in education, science, technology, innovation. For me, that was something I started because of the passion I have about mentorship. I felt that mentorship because when I see girls struggling, I feel like I really have to help these girls so that they can be able to fight the world. That way they can also outperform, boys and stuff like that. So the mentorship class, whenever I got for a mentorship class, the first thing is to tell the girls that you can do it, because I've done chemistry. I'm a full professor of chemistry. So why can't you do it? And
Wow.
even today, I go to the boys' schools and do the same. I say, you're a boys, I'm a girl, I'm a woman, and I'm a professor of chemistry. I don't know why you can't pass chemistry and mathematics for that matter. So that is my story, and maybe we can be able to discuss later. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. So what the boys can do, the girls can do even better. And it doesn't matter if the field is male dominated. Gone are those days we are scared. We can get there. You bring up a very important point as we go now deeper into the visibility issue. Yes. Vinny, do you want to come in there? Is this fight for visibility urgent? What is your take? What have you experienced as an award-winning young scientist? Are you visible enough? What are the issues? What are the barriers around this? And how urgent is the fight for visibility?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sicelo. And I'm very glad and happy to be among all these wonderful women today as we celebrate the African women. So definitely, I think that the visibility is something that is actually quite urgent. And then I think like Prof. Leke and Prof. Catherine actually mentioned, the visibility has improved, but I think that it can actually be improved even much more when some challenges are actually addressed. And then we know, particularly for women in Africa, we know that some of the challenges Grace actually mentioned, challenges like a lack of mentoring. I'm sure a lot have been done in terms of mentoring young scientists, young women, letting them know that they can do things. So I think if we improve a lot of mentoring, networking young scientists, young women scientists to the world of science, and then teaching them a lot of things in science, like how to write grant, how to secure grant, how to write proposal. This will improve a lot of visibility. From my own experience, after getting actually the L'Oréal UNESCO, it was a big deal, because from there, in fact, the visibility actually improved so much, particularly on social media like LinkedIn. So I was approached by so many people, so many professors, so many doctors to say, oh yeah, we just seen that you have won. So is it possible that you collaborate with me and this and that? So I think it was such a big deal, because and I remember also after obtaining the L'Oréal UNESCO in 2020, and then 10 African women, including me, we came together on LinkedIn, and then we formed this group association called African Women in Science. So I'm very pleased and happy that we actually kick off the organization in Gambia 1 month ago. And then our objective is also to mentor other young women in science, particularly in Africa. And then I'm actually very pleased because for the first time, this is the first cohort, and then we wanted let's say 8, because we are 10 women. We wanted to put all our energy and take one different African younger scientist. But we were so pleased with the amount of women that apply. We had more than 100, yet we need only 7 or 8. So we can still see how a lot of women, younger women, need mentorship, need to be networking, need a lot of things. And then this type of thing actually increase the visibility and show younger women that they can do a lot of things. Like Prof. Catherine just said, if you are everything that a boy or a man can do, women can also do. So I think these are the different challenges that if we continue addressing, we can really improve the visibility of women, particularly women in science.
Wow. Thank you so much, Theo. Thank you so much, Vinny. And also thank you to Fondation L'Oréal for making us visible. I know Vinny even before this because she's been visible. She's doing great research. And this is lovely. And again, to emphasize on mentorship. And I'm happy that everyone has mentioned it. But the big question is going forward, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about the mentorship? It would be lovely to hear from Prof. Rose Leke.
Yes.
From your experience and where you are, why is the fight for visibility urgent when we are reflecting on your journey?
Absolutely. Thanks. No, just talking about the example I have When I got my African Union Award years ago, what I did was sit around with a few other scientists, senior ones, and we formed what we have in Cameroon called the Higher Women Consortium. And you know, our logo, you would see a woman here and the older one taking her, you know, pulling her up. What we really do is we call it holistic mentorship, which I found very, very important, and I'm seeing the impact. Each senior higher woman also has about 4 or 5 younger scientists that she's mentoring. And you know, the mentorship is holistic. This person can wake up in the morning and just call you and tell you all her problems or whatever. It's not just science, not somebody to talk to, but also the science comes in. And you know that, and we have like one big workshop every year that will sit around, all of us, 100 and you know, about 100 women, and then talk about our problems, how they can be solved. So, and then we have a forum and networking. If you see the impact that has done, so I really have seen the effect of good mentorship for our women. And we need also, you know, there's a visibility, but it creates also that persistent barrier that you don't have. You don't attract more women, you know, into the science. We need role models also. And that's what I think we're trying to do here for role modeling, doing, you know, mentorship programs that are holistic, not just mentoring her for the research, for the science, but a holistic mentorship. And I can tell you, we've had an impact here in Cameroon, what these girls have done. You talk about writing grants in the workshops. What we start doing is teaching them. How do you get grants? You know, in Africa, research is not funded in the countries. You need external, you need to write. What am I telling you? So we do the hard skills. How do you write the grants? How do you write even a common CV sometimes, and so on? And then the soft skills of time management, taking care of the home. What do you do if you have just what we've been saying here, balancing work life? So we have all those. For 1 week, we sit together and discuss all of that. And everybody is so happy when we go and we come back and you see the impact it has had. So I really encourage, you know, mentorship is one thing, holistic mentorship, that I'm really encouraging to bring up these younger girls. Not only in the laboratory that they're working in, the supervisors can do that, but to just take them and get holistic. And one thing I like to say also, Sicelo, is really what L'Oréal UNESCO has done is wonderful in recognizing women's achievement. I think that also, you know, it has such an impact on the younger ones. Hey, see what I can do? I've been recognized for this, or that person was recognized. I myself will go there. This recognition is wonderful that they are doing. Let me hand over to you.
Wow, thank you so much. So mentorship comes up again. For us to be visible, we need to mentor each other and tell our stories. But Grace, do you think we are telling our stories enough? Who needs to help us with this fight for visibility? What are we doing ourselves as women in science? And from a younger generation, what is your take on visibility?
Yeah, thanks, Sicelo. And again, like going back to that Professor Linker, and also Vinny mentioned, you know, visibility problem is, you can feel it wherever you go. It's a problem in Africa, it's a problem all over the world. And already in a space where women feel lessened and oppressed, you know, it's like you are here because we're trying to make up for the numbers, or you're here because you're lucky. It's important for women, especially early career scientists, to know that they're in those spaces because they deserve it. They're in those spaces because they earned it. But more importantly, being aware that, you know, the visibility, some of us were shy in most African cultures. As a woman, you're taught to be quiet, to be, you know, not make more noises, not to be visible or seen. But it's also acknowledging that we're not being loud or disrespectful. We are just being present, and we are asking for our work and our contribution to be acknowledged. And like you've heard from all of the the participant today and those amazing women scientists, is that when you're visible, you approach for more collaboration, you approach to contribute, you approach to be seen more, you inspire the next generation. So the ripple effect goes beyond just a single person. It's an effect on those women who are being visible, in their partners, in their collaborators, but also more importantly, it's encouraging for allies, right? Because most of us, we got where we are, or we are visible because there were also allies who came in and say, I want to support this cause, right? So seeing the needle move towards the right direction is encouraging for us who are in the middle of the fight, but also the whole community around us that is trying to fight this. And my take on this in terms of where we're headed, we cannot push for the visibility on the work of African women scientists without acknowledging the ripple effect of what women have to go through. Like, a woman is set to embrace the fact that she'll have to jump through 10 hoops to make it even halfway through where her male colleague would be. But as a community, and as a continent, and I would say actually as a global community, we need to embrace the fact of not being okay with that, and embrace the fact that a woman scientist should not be oppressed for her work. She should be given credit where it's due. She should be supported. But most importantly, going back to what Professor Leke was mentioning on cultural challenges, we need to understand that for her to be successful, it's not just a success that will come to her and her family, but it will benefit the whole community. Wow. So understanding that this will be a win situation for everyone and the whole world.
Wow, Grace. Wow. You bring important points there of us being a collective and amplifying our voice. Let's get away from the notion that women in science were a minority, because if we all come together globally, or even just Africa, we're a movement. We can do so much more, and we can be heard. And the visibility starts again, like what you're saying, with each and every one of us. Don't be shy. Stand out there and tell your story. We want more STEM ladies. Tell your story so that we inspire the next generation. Moving to Prof. Ngila, what do you think can be done going forward? Let's look into the future. What challenges have you faced in terms of visibility as the older generation? And what would you like to see happening going forward for the younger generation in terms of visibility and us being a powerful, amplified voice as women in Africa?
Talking about visibility, like like what Rose said, just what L'Oréal does. L'Oréal awards for early researchers, because first and foremost, when somebody is recognized, whether it's a woman or a man, they feel good about themselves. But it is even more impactful when it is a woman recognized, because you start now feeling that, oh, actually I can do it. And so therefore that confidence pushes you ahead. So in terms of visibility, what can we do to promote that? In fact, we are actually talking about what the foundation I started, the Foundation for Women and Youth. It is all about recognition. Recently, I've been talking about, in every place I go, I must talk about recognition. We must recognize women who are doing well. And somehow that caught, the eyes of our Kenya National Research Foundation Fund. So recently, I saw they advertised for research awards, and they have written for women. They've never done before. It hasn't been done before. I've been talking about this. I've been drumming. Anytime you give me an opportunity to stand anywhere in the world, whether it is in Kenya or anywhere else, I must talk about women and visibility and recognition. So somehow I think we have to keep on talking about it, because that is the only way. The more we drum this information, now it will reach a better, a larger audience. So I'm happy that now Kenya is recognizing that, but I've also been pushing. In fact, I've written to the Ministry of Education, I've written to Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, I've written to all these people. I said, we have to start recognizing women who are doing well. Another thing that I've been drumming about is about, recognizing women, not just recognizing them, but also allowing women who have already made it, women top scientists and all that. Why can't we give them opportunities so that they can also be seen? we can also be able to say in Kenya and all over the Africa, we have got top women who are doing science. Another thing that I've tried to do, and in fact in Kenya, some time back, I think from 2017, UNESCO started STEM mentorship sort of program. And so we went and identified women, marine scientists, women, architects, women, pilots, and so forth and so on. And all these women came together. Now we call them, women STEM mentors. And so we usually go as a group to different schools, particularly girls' schools, and we go and talk about how did I become a chemist? How did you become an engineer, and so forth. And so these girls feel very motivated because of that. Something that I've been, trying to work on through this foundation is that I should be able to collect data about top women scientists in Kenya and write their profiles and publish these profiles in small booklets and distribute these books to all the primary schools and maybe secondary schools, because I want both girls, young girls and boys to see women can also be top scientists. So the more we talk about women who have done it and showcase them, the better, and this message will continue resonating, and hopefully one day we are going to see the needle has moved an inch. At least we have got something to be very proud about. Thank you very much, Sicelo.
Thank you. Well answered. The need for recognition. I just want to say, recently, I discovered that we need to knock on the doors. Sometimes we're not recognized because we are comfortable in our spaces. In Zimbabwe, we had the first ever Women in Science gathering as we celebrated Women's Month. And the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology was open to it. But because we've never gone there and knocked on those doors, we will think we can't be recognized. So all the people who are listening today, we want to challenge each other. Let's knock on those doors and get the recognition that we need. And it begins with us. No one is going to do it for us whilst we're seated at home. We need to make the moves. We want to hear that Professor Rose Leke, there is an amazing Women in Science gathering where you are celebrating African Women Trailblazers. We can all do the little, and together it becomes big. This is very interesting, but we also need to open it up to the question and answer to the audience so that we can also hear what they have to say. So already so many questions are popping. And one question that's catching my attention is from Prudence Tambura Manari. And she's saying the fight for visibility is real. And it feels like women have to work harder to prove themselves. What can we do to overcome this? Prof. Rose Leke, do you want to take this? What can we do to overcome this?
To overcome, meaning women have to work harder?
Yes.
It is true. It is true. Especially in Africa, where we are. You have to work harder. The men are not joining you, whether you're going to take care of the home, there are all things you have to do. You have a laboratory there. You just have to put in your mind. We tell our women, you have to work harder than the men. So the question is, you want to work less than the men? No, you're a woman. And the way it is his stool is higher than yours. And you're not going to try to come up, bring a stool there. You get in trouble with your in-laws and with everybody. You can find things around, that you work harder, have help, house help around, people to help you to do, dividing the chores that you have to do, prioritizing, but put it in your mind. Anyway, for me, you have to work harder than the men. And, the men are feeling it too, that the women are working harder. Please don't look for a way, whoever asks the question, that you want to work less than the men. No, just keep working harder, but planning well, managing well, and prioritizing all that you're doing and make sure that all those, whether it be the lab, whether it be the home, whether it be the children, whether it be the social groups that you belong to, that you manage to really balance your life, work-life balance. It is difficult, and please work harder than the men. Please, thank you. Thanks.
Wow, there's no shortcuts. We're hearing it from the award-winning Professor Rose Lake. There's no shortcuts.
No.
So if someone was waiting to hear an answer that says, let's do it this way, clearly not happening. I'm sorry about that. Wow, thank you. And it goes back to the need for mentorship. Let's mentor each other. Some scientists are really not good at planning. Some scientists are not good at budgeting. Some scientists are not good at networking. Like Grace was saying, we are shy. We want to stay in the lab, but there's no shortcut. We need to get out of our comfort zone and we need to continue working hard. Wow. And an interesting question again on budgets and finances. Let me read the question. When one thinks of scientific research, one thinks of a budget and finances. How would you advise younger generation of scientists on being more resourceful, especially considering the scarcity of resources? Who would like to take that, Vinny?
Yes. Thank you so much. This is very true. And as I always say, the problem with younger scientists is that they think that you have to get that big things at first. I always think that science is a journey, it's a process, it's step by step. And I remember actually my first grant that I ever got was like $500 in Zimbabwe. That was the National Ed Council that I applied and I got it. And then from there, I got that confidence that, oh, I can do something. So I took that $500. I remember I actually bought some equipment for some reagent for one of my PhD objectives. So I think it's a process, right? It's a process that you have to knock, like Prof mentioned. Sometimes the information are there, but usually young scientists are not aware. You have to knock, you have to look for other people that have gotten it, and then you ask, there's no shortcut like Prof say. You have to be pushing, you have to work hard, you have to look around. Is there any grant? Do you have senior people that you can ask, you can inquire? Because like Grace say, if you don't ask, you will never know. If you don't knock, the door will never be open unto you. So you have to have that attitude of looking, seeking, asking, looking for the right people to ask for the right question, and then you will always get. That's what I can say about it. Thanks.
Wow. Thank you so much. And quite a number of people in the groups, they're asking about mentorship. Is there any mentorship group in Zimbabwe? Is there a way to join Professor Rose Leke's mentorship group? All those questions are being asked, and I'm sure we'll definitely put up some links on our Facebook page. So keep on bringing the questions. We'll keep on answering and sharing with you. And of course, all mentorship groups are open for people to join. As we get to the end, it's so interesting, right? I don't even want to say as we get to the end because we are at the end. I wish we could continue with another round of questions and talk more about this issue around visibility. But because of time, we have to hand over to Professor Toto. But let's keep the conversations going on Facebook. Let's keep the questions coming. We'll keep on answering, and let's continue to network. The key message that comes out today is that the fight for visibility is urgent, and we all have a role to play. Let's mentor each other. Let's tell our stories. Let's be the ones leading in the change that we want to see. And remember, we do not want to continue saying women in science are a minority. Together, we can amplify our voice and be heard. Professor Toto, are you there?
I'm right here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, moderator, the famed STEM lady. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for being part of this inspiring session. I think the key words for me were recognition and mentorship. It seems that this is something that is very profound and that needs to be addressed in a very, very intense manner. Of course, we know science has no gender, and I'm glad that some of the Africa's leading scientists are women. And in our just ended session, we have had Professor Ngila and Professor Leke as outstanding examples, and of course, the young talents for which the future belongs. Since the launch of For Women in Science Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Program in 2010, L'Oréal and UNESCO have brought to light more than 230 outstanding women scientists, including 14 laureates, and of course we've had 2 this afternoon of the International For Women in Science Award. The program has covered all 49 countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. 7 years ago, South Africa was separated from the rest of the sub-Saharan African participants of the program so as to have its own local program, simply because of the fact that we know that the infrastructure and the number of researchers in South Africa are quite much more than any other African countries. And so the situation was such that there was a desire not to allow the domination of South Africa in this program so that we can be able to allocate the awards to the rest of the countries in the sub-Saharan Africa. In the past few years, there has been a significant interest throughout the continent, and that has not only improved the number of applicants, but also their quality. The quality has improved significantly. We have seen an increase of 47% in the number of applicants in the last couple of years. And for that, the prizes dedicated to the program were also increased from 20 to 30. In those, we have 25 for doctorate and 5 for postdocs. The awardees receive financial support to help them carry out their research project in the form of grants, 10,000 euros for doctoral students and 15,000 euros for postdoctoral students. As a former president of the jury and a current jury member, I can say that the application evaluation criteria is very simple. We are always looking for quality and impact. The evaluation process looks at, amongst others, the quality of research proposal, that implies the work done and the work to be conducted, the scientific rigor and inquiry therein, proposed resources, scientific output by the candidate, as well as the opinion of others about their work and conduct. We need good references and a demonstrated need for financial assistance through a justified budget. I think this is something that came up in the questions. Applications are reviewed by reviewers. The shortlisted candidates are then further reviewed by the jury members, and the final ranking and adjudication is conducted by the jury in a meeting where deliberations take place. This is where prioritization takes place, and of course, there has to be an evaluation of the trending science topics and what are the needs in terms of society from an African perspective, as well as from a global perspective, because we want impact. The L'Oréal Foundation has driven a strong campaign to communicate and valorize those exceptional scientists. That includes hosting the award ceremonies across the African continent with a deliberate effort to alternate between French and English-speaking countries. Award ceremonies have taken place, for example, in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi in Kenya, Dakar in Senegal, Kigali in Rwanda, Abidjan in Ivory Coast, Kasane in Botswana, and in 2024, the awards will be taking place in Benin. The foundation has also provided platforms for online and on-site training on different fields, for example, leadership and management, and in parallel mentorship programs that will build the intergenerational bridge with a specific focus on girls in science. Let me conclude my short remarks by requesting that you, the ones that have been connected to this session, be ambassadors to our program, spread the word, share this opportunity within your network. We can only transform the status of the girl child one at a time, and every day counts. It can be the life-changing opportunity that many young talents aspire to. As a consequence, it will be a window of opportunity to address the most challenging scientific questions for Africa. Let me take this opportunity to thank you all for your participation, and most of all, the Foundation and UNESCO for this important initiative and collaboration. It is a true gift to this need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Toto. And thank you so much to our panelists, our lovely panelists of African Women Trailblazers in Science. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. Thank you to Fondation L'Oréal for such a lovely opportunity that goes on to amplify our voices as women in science on such a special day as we celebrate women in Africa. And to all of you listening, let's continue the fight for visibility. The world needs science, and science needs the woman. Thank you.